person with less income in the household at the moment, but they are in the path of finding a solution or saving their property. And as Mary already shared with us, we have been noticing that the NOEs are on track to be higher than previous years. So notice of intent to foreclosure are going out every day in a higher number than previous years. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information with you.
Would you like to continue with the down payment assistance discussion or stop here for some questions?
Let me check in with colleagues. I think we're good to continue. Let's continue with down payment assistance.
And I'm going to give an overview and ask, we have representatives from DHCD come up. All right. So thank you, Naeem. I'm going to talk about the county's 3 continually funded down payment assistance programs. I'm going to call them by their acronyms, but I'll say off their full titles now. Montgomery Homeownership Program, MHP, which is administered by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. The Montgomery County Homeownership Assistance Fund, MCHAF, that is administered by our Housing Opportunities Commission. And MedPal, which is the Montgomery Employee Down Payment Assistance Loan, again administered by the state. So while all 3 are, I'm calling them down payment assistance programs, they're often known as DPAs. The 3 programs that the county runs works for down payment and closing costs. So even though we're saying down payment, it also includes closing costs. And just again, for the folks at home, the down payment is the difference between the sales price and your mortgage amount. And closing costs are those various fees and costs paid at settlement that include insurance, a variety of types, additional fees, lender, escrow, paying all the people who got you to the table, as well as property taxes. Next. So again, hard to read, but the 3 programs have similar yet slightly different terms. I mentioned who already partners with them. They are tied to the first mortgage product type of DHCD and HOC. So essentially, if you're going to get this down payment, you're going to be signed up for their mortgage programs. The 3 programs are currently set with a maximum up to $25,000 a loan. MHP and MCHAF are 40%, no greater than 40% of the borrower's income. MedPal happens to be a flat $25,000, and if you don't need the full $25,000 for your down payment assistance, it goes to pay down your principal. As I mentioned, it's tied to the mortgage, which changes daily, but I took a screenshot of the mortgage rates as of last week, and you can see all 3. The primary mortgage would be somewhere around 6.7% to 7.5%, depending on some additional terms that you would receive. MHP and MedPal are both for 30 years. MedPal is forgiven if you continue to remain in your home after 30 years, but for both of those, the down payment would not be due back unless you sold your property or refinanced. It's a 0% interest rate, so really you never have to pay this off until the end. The MCHAF program is a 10-year forgiven loan, so if you're staying in your property for full 10 years, that's forgiven. None of these are revolving loans. They will be returned to the county upon repayment. So when somebody does sell or refinance, the money will come back to the state or to the county. However, we've not received any of them back, so people are still remaining in their homes. The oldest program is MHP, which was created in 2017. So we have people who bought their home in 2017 still staying in that home. Next. To qualify, again, there's a little bit slightly different terms. All of them are first-time home buyers, so meaning that you may not have owned a home for the prior 3 years, and that comes, all 3 of them come with a first-time home buyer class that we just discussed earlier. The incomes are again tied to the mortgage, which are a little bit different. MHP, I have the numbers up there, but for 2025 means that 1 or 2 person household makes less than $196,000 a year. MedPal, however, is tied to 120% of AMI, which is equivalent to our workforce housing program. So there are different rates depending on your household size, also provided on the screen. There are a few other minor qualifications, again, tied to the first mortgage. Of course, MedPal being an employee program means that you have to have at least one household member who is an employee of the county, an employee of its specific unions and or non-union represented individuals of the various departments of the county, and also MCPS union members. There in the MedPal program, it does require a contribution of 1% of the sales price, and let's see, MHP and McCaff both have a cap on the total cost of the home. Now, in the next few slides, take all three of our down payment assistance programs and provide some data about all three together to give a general direction of who we're serving overall with the programs. I have representatives here from the state's program and HOC who are going to give a lot more details about their individual programs. Okay, so you can see the first slide, overwhelmingly, these down payment assistance are providing to households who are earning less than 70% of AMI. That seems to be the direction of most of the loans. The next one does break it down. You can see by breaking it down, some of our products are serving a little bit higher income brackets than other products. It's specifically the MHP and MedPal tend to serve a little bit higher AMI, whereas HOC's McCaff program is serving more of our lower income families. Next. The primary age bracket for most of our down payment assistance are 30 to 40-year-olds, and I found this interesting. The primary borrower identifies as female in more cases than not. The household size, next. Most of these are going to 1 and 2 people households. So it's really a lot of starter homes, getting people into homes as they're single and just beginning their families. Racial breakdown, the majority identify as Black, non-Hispanic, with the second category being white. But when we take that information and compare it to census tract information, you'll see that while our criteria for all the down payment assistance programs are neutral, when looking at the results, we're providing a bulk of the assistance to historically disadvantaged groups at a higher percentage or close to equal proportion of their distribution to the county population. The majority of unit types that we are providing is condos. It's interesting, we do not track condo fees, but a lot of these 1 and 2 person households are buying condominiums. Second in majority would be for townhomes, which is shown in gray. The smaller bars and pie wedge is single family standalones. Looking at the distribution of the county, you see that these down payment assistance loans are going all over the county to provide home ownership opportunities all across this area. Primarily, though, we're seeing majority in Silver Spring, with the second area being Germantown and third Gaithersburg. As far as the funding distribution, most of our down payment assistance loans are within the first couple of months after the program gets up and going every year. So we fund it as the new fiscal year begins in July. It takes about a month to ramp up. So between August and, say, January or February of every year, we've been spending down most of the programs. You'll notice FY24 went out much longer because that had an additional allocation of ARPA funds, so we had double the amount to spend that year, and it went all the way through that fiscal year. Next. We are beginning to see a trend. So as I mentioned, the down payment and closing costs are covered with this. Down payments under any other program could be between 3 to 20%. However, with the programs that we're operating, they're tied to mortgages that are limited to about 3 to 3.5%. In addition to closing costs, you would need, say, 4 to 6%. It's hard to determine based on the sales price, but overall, most purchasers would need about 10% of the sales price for both down payment and closing costs. And as you see in the last column on the right, that requires more than the $25,000 that we're providing in the down payment assistance. It's also interesting from this table, the average sales price for all three of the programs are under $400,000, most between $300,000 to $400,000. The average sales price in Montgomery County in 2024 was higher than $600,000, say $605,000. So these are definitely first-time homebuyer, likely resale units for that price. Again, this goes back to most of the borrowers are now taking the full $25,000 allowed. I did break this out into MHP and McCaff to see the difference. About 87% in the past year have taken the full MHP $25,000. In McCaff, it's closer to, say, 70% of the borrowers, but they are an increasing number of people taking the full amount. And then the last point, I know we get a lot of questions about how are these being promoted. All three of our down payment assistance programs are knowledge-based answers on the county website. They will redirect individuals who are going to the county to either the state or HOC's funding sites where all the much more detail about the different mortgage programs and down payments are provided. DHCA also has a lot of flyers that we provide for the three down payment assistance programs, which we provide at any kind of table that DHCA might be sitting at, budget discussions, panels, etc. MedPal is a little more specific because it is a county employee program. So DHCA has worked with both the county's HR department and MCPS's HR department. It is published on the HR benefits and pay site, which you can see here where I've highlighted where that's linked. HR does talk about it with new employee orientation discussions. They have annual liaison conversations that they promote this to make sure that HR liaisons in different departments are also promoting it. It's included in recruitment materials to try to bring employees to Montgomery County to say we have this wonderful option available. MCPS, they will put it on their pay stubs on a regular basis, I've been informed, and they re-advertise with new funding and also work with their unions regularly. Now, through conversations recognizing that we could boost our marketing, we've also, DHCA has been having conversations with various unions, and there is a plan to provide it on McGeo's regular newsletter to promote it as well. So with that, I will turn it over to DHCD to give a little information about their programs.
Wonderful, thank you. Hello, good afternoon, committee chair, committee members. I'm very honored. Thank you for having me here. I think I'm presenting. This is like second time. I've been here a couple of years ago. And my name is Maddie Siulu. I'm the director of Maryland Mortgage Program in Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. Just before I forget, a shout out to the counseling agencies. They're just amazing. They work, we have a strong partnership with them throughout the state. They helped a lot home buyers as well as homeowners. Because I manage the Maryland Mortgage Program, but I also manage the Maryland Homeowner Assistance Fund. There was the $250 million allocated by the Treasury to the state of Maryland, and we worked really, really hard and really close with the counseling agencies. That being said, thank you so much, Summer. You just made a great presentation for your first half of it, as well as the second half, with how Maryland Mortgage Program works. So I'll try not to really be redundant, not to repeat too much, just give you an overview of the Maryland Mortgage Program, very general, and also where the MHP and MedPal fall into that picture. So Maryland Mortgage Program is the flagship program of the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. Has been it's been active for over 40 years. Offers competitive interest rates, stability, flexibility. Is a 30-year fixed rate home loan program. We're targeting low to medium income home buyers. We have a range of assistance of options for down payment and closing cost, and our loans are both government and conventional. Government meaning FHA, VA, USDA insured, and conventional loans, so Fannie and Freddie loans as well. They are the investors. We work with an approved network of over 120 lenders statewide. They are represented. We have loans in every single jurisdiction, county and jurisdiction in the state. All our loans are serviced by U.S. Bank. Generally, all loans are mortgage-backed securitized, so that's why our investors, the government, and Fannie and Freddie are instrumental in purchasing all the loans that we issue. More than 98% of MMP borrowers are first-time home buyers. We also allow repeat home buyers. I just have a diagram. I'm not going to go through every product, but just to give you an idea of the wide array of offerings we have. So we have from the lowest rate that we offer, the lowest rate of all our products. That's the one with no DPA. It's up to anybody to choose either that or DPA starting from $6,000, DPA down payment assistance from $6,000 to 3%, 4%, 5%, 6% down payment assistance, and that's specific for home buyers with income below 50% AMI. And we also have a very special designated area for so-called specialty products. Those were Maryland Smart Buy. I'm going to mention a few words about it in the next couple of slides. And Maryland Home Mobility. So Smart Buy is the program assisting homebuyers with student debt. Maryland Home Mobility assisting homebuyers with disabilities, and products with partner-funded DPA, and that's where the MHP and MatPal falls under. We're starting the 10th. We'll be starting the 10th year of collaboration with Montgomery County next year. We had in the past collaboration with various jurisdictions. We had a Greenbelt program that ended last year. In the past, we worked for a few years also with Baltimore City, Baltimore County. We work very closely with Prince George's County through their Pathway to Purchase, which I think it's $25,000. They're going to double it to $50,000 down payment assistance. They manage their own funding. We're working together in terms of marketing, outreach, promoting, consulting each other. But they have their own ways to manage the funding. They tried many times, to replicate the great structure we have here with Montgomery County. They just couldn't get all the approvals in place for that. So hopefully, we've been trying that for quite a few years. Hopefully, eventually they'll be able to do that. That they think that would be ideal for them. But and we also offer a few options for repeat home buyers as well. And on top of that, we have the so-called partner match products that actually adds up $2,500 in down payment assistance to match dollar per dollar the contribution of our partners being employers, real estate developers, builders, government programs as well. I mentioned that I'll just speak a little bit about Smart Buy. You probably are aware it's been out there. It's been successful for 10 years now. It helped almost more than 1,400 borrowers eliminate $41 million in student loans. Borrowers who use that opportunity to move and move into their homes, their first-time home buyers. Just in Montgomery County, in the 10 years, we assisted 126 households paying over $4 million worth of student debt loans and leveraging almost $40 million in mortgages under this program. All the details are on our website. It became a national model. It inspired other states. Quite a few states, counties reached out to us to try to launch similar initiatives. Just in a nutshell, the structure of Smart Buy consists in the first mortgage, a conventional loan of 97% of the sales price. The second loan, which is the forgivable portion, that's the portion covering the student debt. That's capped at $20,000. It used to be higher in the past, but because of last allocation that we received from the State General Assembly. We had to lower it to 20,000 in order to make sure we assist as many borrowers as possible. And that's one of the options. We also talk to various jurisdictions to see if we can collaborate on, so to have other jurisdictions participate in this program. And then it has the third loan, which is a mortgage down payment assistance, could be $6,000 or 6% for borrowers with income below 50% area median income. Just a quick comparison to show where we are, where the statewide family income and CDA or MMP family income, which is very close to each other. You can see the green and blue lines that are so far away from the purchase price, median purchase price in the state. I'm sure that's no surprise to anybody. So the home purchase prices increased along with the market, but incomes stayed relatively flat. And that really had a significant impact on affordability. As an idea, over 55% of MMP borrowers have income below 80%, and almost 84% of MMP borrowers use down payment assistance. The numbers are so comparative to the ones you presented for all your programs. Just looking at Montgomery County and Maryland Mortgage Program, and close to half of the population represents Black and Hispanic home buyers. The rest consist of Asian, white, others, and a lot of them did not provide data as well. So all these numbers, the percentages represent the ones who provided the data. The second slide is just kind of detailing the exact ethnicity breakdown, race ethnicity breakdown for the two programs each. MMP just was the highest production in the county, by county, in the state. As you can see, Baltimore City was one of the top performers, of course, and Prince George's County and Montgomery County as well. Those are the areas very highly serviced by Maryland Mortgage Program. Going now down in details to Montgomery Homeownership Program, MHP. It's been, as I said, it's finished. It's ending its 9th year of operation, so it's ready to start the 10th year next month. Just a few stats. The average borrower income is almost $92,000. It's about $10,000 more than it was last year. They used almost everybody used the top $25,000. The program usually ends, or the allocation is spent usually within the first half of any fiscal year, so it kind of ends at the beginning of the calendar year. So January, February, we have to close the program and just all wait for July. So that's what's happening right now as well. For MadPal is a different situation because of the requirements that the buyers be county employees. In terms of cities in the county, just as Somerset, Gaithersburg, Germantown, and Silver Spring are the ones with the, highest density of population, as well as the highest utilization of these programs. Marketing and business development. I know there was a specific question or of interest for that would impact how well these two programs are known, MHP and then MadPal. So as I mentioned, we work throughout the state. So our outreach marketing is done throughout the state consistently. We have over 120 lenders. They have branches in every county statewide. So the entire state is aware of your programs, not just anything that's not that organizations or events in Montgomery County. This is going throughout the state and leverages also our relationship with other counties as well, because everybody's interested. Okay, then how can we copy that structure? How can we do the same thing? Not many are really fortunate to get approvals, internal approvals to move on with that, or otherwise, for sure, there would be more similar programs with various jurisdictions. We also work very closely, of course, with the industry partners because, as I said, all our loans are serviced by U.S. Bank. We're on the board of Maryland Mortgage Bankers and Brokers Association. We work with the Maryland Realtors and, of course, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, private mortgage insurers, housing counselors, we have affiliate memberships with local realtor associations. They are all stakeholders in our program and partners. We also have advertising and columns in association magazines like Maryland Realtors, Coastal Association of Realtors. Then training and exhibiting is extremely active because we have to do monthly training with our lenders, with real estate agents, with again all the participants in our programs. We exhibit, speak at annual events. For example, in 2024, fiscal 2024, our team participated in 239 events and shared information with 7,500 participants. For example, this week, my colleagues are coming to Montgomery County to an AACP event that's going to happen, I think, in a couple of days here. Advertising and social media, digital, radio, transit marketing campaign. You have pictures, an example, an ad on a bus. The same ad is also on the bus stop. Social media presence, almost daily announcements on Facebook, X, Instagram, regular press releases, ads, pictures from the events we go to, radio spots, various campaigns for homeownership months, affordable housing, back to school, Christmas, various occasions, full marketing campaigns with sports focus like Baltimore Orioles, local baseball teams, University of Maryland Terrapins. We in 2024, fiscal 2024, we received over 1,300 engagements and reached over 26,000 social media users. Just pictures of the Orioles stadium banner and the ramp up of Homeownership Month. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Chelsea Andrews. I'm the president of HOC, and you've heard a lot of information around home ownership programs. We will try to be brief with our presentation, just high-level information. Our website also has all of this information for the public as well, hocmc.org. Next slide. Just as an overview, we're going to just share some information about the organization, as well as the programs that we have for home buyers, as well as the programs that we have for our own specific customers. Next slide. For those who may not be familiar, HOC is an organization that allows and provides support from all spectrums of continuous support for our residents in this county. This slide shows our focus on our strategic plan, our efforts to expand affordable housing in the county, to enhance the lives we touch, and to excel as a world-class organization. And our mission is really to provide support for those who are low and moderate income in the county. Next slide. We do that a number of ways. We are the public housing authority for the county. We administer close to 8,000 vouchers. We provide resident services, permanent supportive services, and we have a nonprofit. We also are the housing finance agency, and this is where we're able to provide down payment assistance and first-time home buyer mortgage that you'll hear more about. And we're a developer, the largest in this county, with over 9,400 rental units. Next slide. I'm here with a number of my colleagues. To my left, I have Kareem Brown, our Senior Executive Vice President. To her left, we have Vice President Michael Somerville. He's the Vice President over our Mortgage Finance Program. And to his left, we have Ken Silverman, the Vice President of Government Affairs. I will turn it over to Mike Somerville to provide an overview of the Mortgage Purchase Program.
Great. Thank you, President Andrews, and thank you, council members. The Mortgage Purchase Program run by HOC has several components to it, and they're very similar to what you've heard from the other organizations. Our first mortgage product, which is FHA and conventional products through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. 30-year fixed rate term. We have two options, one that uses the McCaff and the revolving closing cost program. The other one, option 2, uses the HOC Purchase Assistance Program as well as the revolving closing cost program. We do approve our own lenders. We have 30 lenders approved into our mortgage purchase program. We present to our commission for approval, and they're required to go through a specific training program that we offer, and we do remedial training on a regular basis, 6 to 8 training sessions per year. In terms of the other down payment assistance and closing cost assistance programs on this page, the most popular is the McCaff program. We exhaust all funds each year that are provided to us by the county. We do, on an average basis, issue literally 60 to 80 loans per year under that. With the Housing Purchase Assistance Program, it's less utilized. We do few loans under that program because it has a certain limitation, 3% of the sales price. The one thing that is nice about it is deferred for the first 5 years and then forgivable after that point. Next slide, please. This is a quick summary of our activity, and I'll focus in on fiscal year 25. To date, we've issued $28,800,000 in first-time loans in the county. We've closed 101 loans. And as you can see, our average purchase price and mortgage amounts are very similar to the rest of the presentations you've received earlier. Next slide, please. And I'll turn it over to Ken.
Good afternoon, council members. Ken Silverman, Vice President of Government Affairs. We did a little bit of number crunching just to be able to share with you a better sense of who our programs are serving. A lot of this, kind of echoes what was in DHCA's presentation. They really did a great job. So we'll kind of hit the highlights and just sort of point out where anything's a little bit different. But again, showing our demographics compared to the county at large. Next slide, please. Here we're showing the purchase price of HOC assisted homes through our mortgage purchase program versus the average listing price over the last 5 years in the county. So that comes from a Realtor.com index. And the key thing there is the sort of average price of homes in the county has increased about twice as fast over the past 5 years as the purchase price for the customers that we're serving. Next slide, please. Same story for income. So here is the borrower income over the last 5 years compared to the area median income. And again, the AMI has increased about twice as fast as the income of our borrowers. So the sort of effective AMI of the families that we're serving has fallen. Next slide, please. So here we did, similar to what Summer did, analysis of the geographic distribution. We did go quite a bit farther back. So we pulled all the way back to 2012, a total of about 1,600 purchases that we've been able to assist over that time. Would highlight a little over half have been in Gaithersburg, Germantown, or Clarksburg, in those sort of faster growing up-county areas. And then the rest, a couple areas of concentration, but fairly evenly distributed around the county. Next slide, please. Again, this echoes what Summer showed, that vast majority of folks are purchasing either condos or townhomes. Again, this does go a little bit further back, so we pulled 10 years of our data to show this distribution here. Next slide, please. All right, and now I'm going to turn it back to Mike to talk about the programs we have for our customers.
Next slide, please. So HOC offers a variety of programs in the form of education. The first is our financial literacy program, which is through our HOC Resident Services Division, which is designed to provide both one-on-one as well as workshop-level education opportunities. To give you an idea, since March of this year, they've conducted 60 one-on-one counseling sessions as well as one workshop that involved a larger group. This is designed to help people really understand their finances, improve their credit scores, and enhance their ability to maintain and operate a house. HOC Single Family Division, we offer homeownership programs as well for our HOC residents, which includes the same type of credit counseling and other elements that you see in the HUD designated counseling program. Ours, however, is a little more abbreviated. It's a 4-hour session, and those participants do receive a certificate that they can use as they approach lenders. Next slide, please. So our family self-sufficiency program is really geared, and it's authorized through HUD, and it's designed for residents receiving vouchers or living in HUD finance housing projects. Now, our program has 372 families participating in it at this time, and they're provided a interest-bearing escrow account that basically builds up and allows them to have a funds toward the purchase of a home at a later date. Next slide, please. And the last is our HOC home ownership program, or HOC as we call it. It's open to all residents in our HOC owned or affiliated developments with income of around $40,000 per year. A certain number of MPDUs are reserved for purchase by HOC residents. Over the last 5 years, we've had 95 units reserved for HOC residents, and 55 of those were actually closed into purchases. So a conversion rate about 58% among our tenants, or our residents. HOC monitors these accepted units through settlement, and if the borrower receives MPP financing. And subject to stringent federal regulation, voucher holders may convert their voucher into a home ownership. And that's all the comments I have on our education and program.
Thank you. We're open for any questions you may have.
Great. Well, we have the rest of the group on standby, so we'll call you up as needed and find a microphone. I'll turn it over to colleagues first for questions, but I'll first just express appreciation to everybody for a lot of work and a lot of efforts to put forward these presentations. Obviously, there's a lot happening and a lot of work that is going into it. I think some of the challenges connecting the resources to the folks and making sure there are enough resources there. That's a conversation that we had a robust discussion about during the budget. The funds for the assistant program, we doubled it. They were expended about halfway through the year. They're still expended about halfway through the year, which means that once the funds are used, people stop applying because they know that there's no money there, and the team stops advertising that there are funds available for first-time home buyers because there aren't funds available for first-time home buyers until the next iteration of funding. It's why many of us have been advocating to provide more resources specifically for these homeowner assistance programs. I have a few questions, but I'll turn it to colleagues first before I ask mine. Any questions of colleagues? Councilmember Joanna?
Thank you. Yeah, that was comprehensive, and do not take the fact that we waited till HOC. We're going to have you come back up. Don't worry. So there's, and we might have some musical chairs here just because of the, as was said by the chair, because of the seats. Just want to reiterate thanks. There's a lot happening here, and my first set of questions is kind of related to, and I will start with HOC since you're sitting here, and then I'll ask the others. But is the demand right for? So you have two sides of the coin here. You know, HOC obviously you are serving your customers, and you have your discrete programs. Demand for the counseling services, and then demand for the home ownership, you know, the actual fund money. And what are you seeing? Do you have a sense of what the actual demand is? Is it like Chair Friedson said, where they're just stopping because they know it's going to run out? Or, and this would be a similar question I'm going to have for other folks. What's your best sense of what the actual demand is for the services? Does that make sense?
I think you could go ahead and answer this, Mike. I know you have numbers as it pertains to how many people are currently in our program, and also how quickly we're able to expend the funds.
And if you're turning people away, and if so, when's that happening, or what's the wait? Is there a wait list for the wait list? I know you're taking people off the wait list to give the services to, but there might be two wait lists.
The challenge for this, unlike other programs like voucher, there is no wait list, because you either can purchase a home and you have the resources to purchase it, or you can't. You're not going to, because one of the challenges that we have with this whole program is it's not like we can line up a capital stack for a potential buyer to then send them out into the market to find a house. It's like very quick. They're competing in a regular marketplace, and while they are obtaining, private financing, their lender may know that they're qualified for one of these public programs. They stack it all together, and they either can make it work or they can. I mean, the challenge that we have is when the folks are ready to purchase, they either have it or they don't, and that runs into the issue. This has been like the ongoing rub that we've talked about together on this committee and the previous iteration of the committee, and why it's hard to know what the demand is, because there are folks that aren't even out purchasing a home because the funds aren't available, or their lender doesn't come and apply for it because they know that the funds were already expended.
Yeah, and I think it's a little different for the counseling services in that you might know, or an HOC resident, I want to buy a home, right? You might not know where to start. You might not know if you have enough money. So you could seek assistance to get into one of those programs. So I'm trying to, but certainly if you're ready to buy a home and you need the money right away, that's a different category. There's probably multiple categories of people here that would be in the process, and I'm just trying to get a sense of the various categories. Yeah.
So
I got you in. I'm always trying to get the person who didn't speak in. Yeah, there you go.
good afternoon, and for the record, I'm Kayreen Brown, Senior Executive Vice President. So for HOC's program, just to clarify, there are two categories of borrowers. First, there are those who apply for access to our homeownership program, the HOC-HOP, and then there's the market at large. So anyone in the marketplace can apply for a loan through our program, and then there are those who apply to participate in the homeownership program, of which there are 500 of those on our applicant list, and those apply to gain access to purchase one of our MPDUs that become available to us. We're entitled to a third of the MPUs that are made available. So there's that category, and then there are the market at large who can apply for one of our loans and can go through the counseling process and apply for a loan. And if they're qualified, eligible, we take them through the process. And so both groups apply and make their way through the process and have access to closing cost funds. And when that runs out, it runs out, and typically when interest rates are higher, as they are now, we see the demand taper off. And that's, again, that's what we're experiencing now. When rates are low, it's a little bit different. And so once the McCaff funds, as Mike explained, there are three categories of closing costs and down payment assistance funds. McCaff obviously is the most attractive. It gives the biggest bang for the buck. And once that runs out, the others are not as attractive, but they're available and can be combined. And so, if folks have a little bit more in terms of their own personal resources, they can also tap into those funds. But again, once closing costs, down payment assistance run out, then the demand for our loan funds taper off.
And just add to that, we exhaust the McCaff funds in about 5 to 6 months at the outside. It goes very quickly. We have our lenders are constantly asking, do you know when you'll be receiving your McCaff allocation?
So very similar to what we've seen in the other programs, about halfway through the year or less. And to the point that you kind of alluded to my second question, which was, is the amount enough given where we are and how do we? This is always a question, right? It's 25.
The amount of the grant.
The amount of the assistance.
Yes, there's the total aggregate amount available in the fund, and then there's the per recipient.
It is huge for somebody who has nothing to start with.
Sure, yeah.
The more, the better, obviously. But having added a little bit more, we think it goes a long way to making more homeowners. And obviously, if it can be increased in any way, we're able to make a big impact to folks who are first-time home buyers who.
Could I add on? Because I think the main question, because I think we've always kind of had this question, if and as more funds are available, should we be able to do that? And I'll continue to advocate because I think we ought to add more funds. I wanted to see more funds during this budget. We'll continue to push for that. Would it be better to increase the amount as we do that, or to not do that so that we can increase the number of people who benefit? Is 25,000 enough? And we've seen a somewhat consistent, my sense of it, looking at what your data says, is that we should keep it relatively close to what it is, maybe bump it up a little, but the focus really should be on expanding to more people, because the sales price of the condo and the townhome has stayed relatively consistent. I will note condo prices, particularly older condos in Montgomery, not new construction condos, but condo prices in Montgomery County have not increased at the level that single-family homes have, or anywhere close. The skyrocketing home prices are really new construction broadly, and specifically single-family homes, not necessarily new construction single-family homes, but single-family homes in general. Those two categories have seen huge increases for lots of different reasons: supply and demand, supply chain, labor, et cetera. But your data shows a relatively consistent across that 10-year period.
Right, and our data also shows that there's a success rate with the $25,000. And so we just had this conversation ourselves in terms of the additional allocation. What our recommendation would be is to serve more families versus increase the amount. There are definitely a lot of individuals and families that are seeking this support, and so being able to provide and touch more families. And you saw in 24 in our data, there was a spike in terms of the number of families we were able to serve when we had the extra McCaff funding, versus the following year when we did not. And so we do believe that maintaining 25,000 but serving more families would be the route to go in this circumstance.
That's helpful. I see nodding from partners in the back. I don't know if any of you, I know these questions are kind of applicable to you. Do you have anything you want to add? Okay. Well, no, if you just maybe swap out with someone.
Yeah. We'd be happy to.
Any more questions for you all?
Yeah.
No, based on the data that was presented today, that seems like the right course. If there's demand and it's working for the population that we're looking to serve, it would be great to have more of it to extend it throughout the rest of the year for our home buyers.
Yeah, I could just speak to, my first home purchase was under $300,000, older condo, $25,000 towards the down payment and the closing costs for that purchase would have dramatically changed that entire process. So, I mean, I that makes sense to me that, you know, if you're talking about at that, you know, at that level, and, you know, I think up until the point at which we have funds that aren't getting expended because people say there's just not enough there to put me across the finish line to make this purchase doable, you know, I think expanding to more people within reason seems to be the better course. If we get to the point, I hope we do, at some point where we have some funds that just don't get expended a little bit, and hopefully not a lot, but a little bit, because it just seems like we have run out of folks, you know, who this would benefit, and people say eventually this just is not enough to get me across the finish line to make this a financially feasible transaction. That would seem to make sense.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think the other part of this question, please stay a while here, is the fact that, I forget whose slide, I think it was Ms. Cross's slide, that most of the people who are utilizing this are single 1 to 2, you know, starter home type folks, like was just described, where we know we have a huge need for families that might want to achieve the dream of home ownership. And is there a way to, I know there's some that benefit, yeah, and I know Mr. Naeem is looking for that, maybe that slide, but how do we address either on the counseling side and or the hard money side of, you know, assistance, helping those, you know, those families in that, what can we do to just speak to that market a little more, you know? And obviously they're going to need they're going to need different types of homes, right? That, you know, a condo might not, a 1-bedroom condo probably wouldn't do it. And so I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that.
Well, I guess
You got the short stick.
that's a great question, and it is a difficult one, and that's where our partners like Habitat and others, where HLC recently partnered with Habitat to sell a number of our scattered sites, which are the larger homes, townhomes, single-family homes that can go through the program with Habitat to be more affordable. That's the biggest challenge in terms of those larger families and the housing stock and the cost for those homes. So looking for those partners that can help produce another avenue and additional homes that are affordable. And I think, you know, you raised some really great questions. And as we continue our administration of our programs, we can start asking some of those questions ourselves, and some of the data we're obtaining, especially for the individuals who are unsuccessful or do not move forward with home ownership purchasing. We can try to get more data so that we can be better informed on what that delta could have been that would have helped larger families, and ultimately think through potentially crafting an approach for that submarket.
It's one of the reasons why I think, like, the counsel, I was so adamant about the counseling, because I know in the counseling you're serving the whole panoply of families. You know, so for some of them it might just be, I need help to get rid of my debt. We have a household with 2 earners. We need to get rid of debt. I need to get my credit up so I can get into the normal marketplace, and just need that assistance. You know, you might not need, I'm sure the down payment assistance would help. They probably need that too, or in the closing cost assistance. But yeah, I just put that as kind of a challenge of, as we're thinking about, obviously we always need more resources, but and we want to encourage, we don't want to discourage the starter, the people coming in. We want that to keep happening and happen more of. But we also want to think about, you know, realizing when you're thinking about our African American community, our Latino community, where in the Latino community, 50% rent, African American community, 60% rent, and we're trying to change that dynamic. And in realizing family size and who's there, we have to have a proactive strategy for that. And we do in Habitat, but those are on the margins, right? That's very. And we were all many of us were at the latest Habitat opening, which was awesome for those families. But we need to try to figure out how we can do more of it. So, yeah, Ms. Carl.
I'm just throwing this out there as a possible solution. So the current programs are tied to the income, but but there is no asset test. So one thing that I don't have the data on, unfortunately, is how much additional savings individuals have. But the fact that a lot of these loans have been given to such low-income homeowners makes me think that there would be additional assets that the underwriters are looking at. A possibility then is the bigger the unit, the higher the cost. There could be some kind of tie to a percentage of the sales price instead, so that, it increases, the value would increase as the size of the unit would increase.
That's a great point. I had two people raise their hands, so maybe they can come up, and then I'll yield back to you.
Come on up, and I think, speak to the general question, if you could, from Councilor Juana, and then the specific, how easy would it be to implement, once you get into assets and underwriting, the administrative burden of that is much higher. You become the bank and the underwriter as well, just understanding what, if any, additional administrative burden and cost that would create for you.
That's what I wanted to mention, particularly about underwriting. Don't forget the affordability ratios. So the less money as assistance you give, then you price out a lot of the low-income home buyers, particularly the ones with income below 50% AMI. So for example, a difference between $25,000, $30,000 DPA, $35,000 makes a big difference, because you end up helping borrowers with income at the, the higher range of the whole, range that we look at, 0 to 80%. As I said, generally, I think almost all your buyers are below 80% AMI. So you really price out the borrowers with very low income that need this type of assistance, because it's one of the ratios that comes up in the underwriting of those loans. And then you were asking about the need in the county, at least for the, as I'm looking at some stats on the data from the Maryland Mortgage Program across the state. So it looks like we, in Montgomery County, we leveraged up to about $65 million in loans. Your program leveraged $12.7 million in mortgages in the state. So maybe, 5 times more, I can say, is needed just based on our numbers, for, and which are also insufficient. But this is my program, the Maryland Mortgage Program, is a $1 billion program a year. So
We modestly suggested just 2 times.
Yep.
I was just kidding.
Just that gives you an idea of the need and what's going on, in terms of the underwriting angles of when you look at the assistance needed.
Thank you. Let's hear from.
Yeah, I would like also to add, LDC works with first-time home buyers in the District of Columbia as well, and we are one of the community-based organizations helping the community to apply for the Home Purchase Assistance Program, or the HPAP program. The program offers right now $202,000 up to. So I would say that in the county, we need also to pay attention to affordability, as someone was mentioning, because in DC, that is not enough for our low to moderate income families. So the HPAP program has a table that has 3 different categories, very low, moderate, and very low and moderate income households. So depending on their income and the number of households, people in their household, that is the amount that they are eligible for. So that can be a way that if there is a possibility to increase the amount, that is not the same amount for everybody, so we can keep in mind helping those families that can need more support, right? Because it's not the same a family that is in the 50% AMI that a family that is in the 100% AMI. What is the need in terms of down payment assistance? So these are models that have been relatively working in other jurisdictions. I always like to advocate for the low income families. They need more assistance, right? But definitely, if there is a decision that how many people we help, and if there is no money to allocate to increase that amount, definitely helping more people can be the way to go. But just to keep in mind, low to moderate income families and the affordability also, that if the affordability keeps going up, as we saw in one of the graphics, that houses are close to $1 million in the county, it's going to be really difficult to help everybody.
Appreciate that. Go ahead.
And please,
Yes.
sorry, for MHP and MATPA, remember those are loans, so the funds, when
Right.
they get paid off, come back to the county.
Right.
So it's a
We like that.
recycling,
Yeah.
yes, we do too.
Yeah, Carmen Castro with Housing Initiative Partnership. So what I've seen from other jurisdictions in Maryland, for instance, Howard County, they have kept their $25,000 down payment closing cost assistance for people at 100% AMI, and they increase up to $40,000 for those at 80% AMI.
So it goes up for the lower AMI.
Yes, so that's one option. The city of Gatesburg will start doing that as of July 1st. Do the same, up to $40,000 for 80% AMI and up to $25,000 for 100 AMI. So that's another way of like encouraging
That could kind of get at what
households.
I'm talking about. Like if you had a household that has that AMI, I'd be curious to see if that's helping larger families. I
Yeah, well,
I
you would suspect qualify so. for more,
Yeah.
because the income levels for AMI go higher based on,
Right.
so likely there would be more in the market for a house because they'd be at a higher.
Yeah. That's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I know there's a lot to say, but that's all very helpful. Yield back.
Because that would disproportionately benefit larger families,
Right.
because a family of 3 or 4 household size increases the AMI level.
While
so-
not taking money away from
Yeah.
lower
Yeah.
folks. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's something for us to think about as we,
If you would like, we can share the HPAP table so you can see how.
yeah, that would be great, if you could share that with us. Just a quick question, two main questions. The first question is for the counseling and the down payment assistance. I know the counsel, you don't have to get the down payment assistance to get the counseling, but one of the things that we talked about, does everyone who gets any version of the down payment assistance have to go through some version of the counseling? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I thought so. I just thought it was important. It wasn't explicitly addressed here, so I just wanted to make sure that was said as part of the context of this conversation, because we talked about that during the budget. And how is it decided? Do they get to choose which of the counseling services, or depending on which program they're in, they get directed to a certain counseling service?
So Naeem, can you go back to the screen? I have 2 screenshots of HOC and DHCD. It's towards the beginning. So those are the websites when he gets there. Yeah, right here. Nope, sorry, back 2. Nope, towards the front. Anyway, yeah, so they each have links to HUD, it's a page for housing counseling services. And if you go forward,
And those are the two that
takes you
are
to this
approved.
website. Any housing counseling provider that is HUD certified will qualify. However, there's only 2 located in Montgomery County.
So
So
unless
if you
someone wanted to go
that-
outside of the county, unless you're going to Riverdale, Hyattsville.
For 100% virtual, but then there's no housing counseling for those.
Right, okay, got it. Okay, that's helpful. I just wanted to make sure that was part of this conversation. The conversation that we had 3 budgets ago, maybe it was, where we expanded to public employees, there was the whole question about collective bargaining. We were supportive of it, but wanted to give some space to the executive to, bargain that. Those funds, this is the only program where the funds are not being spent fully. So the question for that is twofold. One, public safety is not included in that. Is there an interest? Are there ongoing conversations where the executive is planning as part of collective bargaining to expand to the public safety bargaining units in order to use those funds? Or are there any thoughts of changing the allocation requested in the next budget to better reflect the reality of what's actually being spent and the demand? I mean, I don't want to take, I have no interest in taking anything away, but either we need to expand who is receiving this so that it actually is meeting the need, or there is an overwhelming number of people. We just finished talking about it's somewhere between 2 and 5 times the amount of resources that we have, and we have a fund that isn't utilizing the full funds. And while I appreciate the fact that there are some ongoing efforts by 2 of the bargaining units that are included, the educators and McGeo, I'm a little skeptical based on the actual usage rates that modest level of increased advertising is going to fill that gap. And so, to me, I'd love to see more public employees get it. I think that was a good thing that we did, and I hope that we, do what we talked about. Let's see how it works, and let's try to expand it if it works. And if not, let's match it to what the reality is, and let's put the money in the other programs that are under-subscribed, because providing homeownership opportunities to people who need them in Montgomery County is broadly a good thing, whether it's public employees, which we would love to see, or it's our residents who need it as well. So any knowledge or understanding?
Yeah, so DHCA has been having continuing conversations with our OLR, who's put us in touch with many of the different unions. We have been told from one organization that they don't have an interest in participating in this. We're not quite sure, but we have clear language from them that they are not interested. We are having continuing conversations with everyone else. We had a very good conversation with McGeo recently, who, like I said, is going to help start to advertise and promote this more, that they believe with that additional boost of advertisement that they're going to put out and try to make sure that every one of their employees is aware of this, that we can spend it down quickly.
Okay, I'm going to request that we get an update.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say one in September, by September 1st, and one by December 1st, of how much of those funds are actually expended. And I'd like to have it compared with the other programs. That would be around the time that budget decisions internally are going to have to be made and ongoing conversations will be made. And I think we should revisit this dynamic, and either the interests change and there's an opportunity to expand this to more bargaining units and more public employees. I think that would be a great outcome. The advertising among McGeo to their members works great, and there's more subscription to this and more utilization. That would be a great outcome. Or if not, I think we need to revisit and decide what makes the most sense to make sure that we're leveraging these resources in the way that is most appropriate.
Sure. Scott Bruton, Director of the Department of Housing and Community Affairs, for the record. Summer, would you agree that we could do quarterly updates on the spend down for the programs?
Well, so we get quarterly updates.
Yeah.
So after those, which would be
Right.
When are the quarterly updates that you get?
trying to think, August. We do get it on October, so it would be late October we could provide that. Then we get it after December, so January would be an ideal time for the next.
Okay, so by November 1st, or
Yep.
by October 31st and by January 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Does that, and we can have council staff follow up with the department. I mean, I want you to have data that's usable for you and for us, that we can make smart decisions here, but I think we owe it to our partners who are running out of resources. I think we owe it to our bargaining units, give them a chance to advertise more and get more folks to utilize. And then I think we owe it to residents to figure out what's the best way to utilize these resources to promote home ownership, which we know is the primary way to build wealth, whether we like that or not, whether we think that's the best system or not. That is the one that we've got. So we're going to have to deal with it for the time being.
Did you want any more additional information on why? Summer, we can, if you'd like to ask further questions, we can provide some of the motivation for why the public safety unions are not interested in this.
I think that would be helpful, and I also think the demographic breakdown between the public employee program versus the other programs would be helpful. That was something that Councilmember Joanno had asked previously, that I think was a helpful part of this conversation, and comparing The numbers, they should be completely opposite of what the home ownership numbers look like in the county, and most of the data shows that generally they are, which actually means that it's a good public sector intervention. It's a good government intervention. We're providing help to the people who aren't getting it in the private market. If it looked similar to what the broader market was doing, then I'm not sure that this would be a totally necessary subsidy and intervention. We're trying to change the dynamics of, who is participating in home ownership in Montgomery County, which is hard to do and, very multi-layered and multifaceted. But I think that would be helpful as well. Are there any other requests from colleagues on the reporting on that?
No, I'm glad you brought it. I was just going to say, I'm glad he brought up MedPal. I was going to, if I had a round two, but we worked it out as a team here, so I would just double tap that. I think I'm interested to know the why and what's happening and how we can do better.
I can provide a little bit more information. I mean,
Sure.
Part of the issue is who lives where. So Montgomery County does not have a residency requirement for its employees, and so what we've found in talking with some of the public safety unions is a really significant portion of their staff do not live in the county. And so this is restricted to purchasing a home in Montgomery County, and so it's of less interest to them. Also because a really significant portion of their members have mandatory is not necessarily the right term, but effectively mandatory overtime, or they get a significant amount of overtime. Many end up being over income because of that. And so, we're trying to get at the details for, what is the motivation for each of and even McGeo, some of their members, because of overtime, can end up being over income. And so we're trying to kind of tease out how to better serve the different unions, as well as, the different represented, non-represented, managers as well, who aren't, like management staff, to try to make MedPal more effective for more of the people who serve the residents of Montgomery County.
Please.
Thank you so much. Can you also, I want to make sure that as you have more conversations with the unions, and when you say education, do you also include SCU 500? Because they're para-educators in the school system. They're also included, right?
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I don't have the list in front of me, but I know there's 3 or 4 different unions within MCU.
Yeah, that should be. I just want to always talk about the teachers union, but that's different from SCU 500. Maybe the answer is not to eliminate this program, but because it's $1 million that maybe it's to be reduced.
Yeah, just to be clear,
fit
I was
reality.
never suggesting eliminating the program.
No, but
What I'm suggesting is whether or
putting that on
not
the
the
record.
funding amount is the right number, and I
Yeah.
think we'll get a sense when there's more advertising, if there's more uptake. If there's not, then I think we need to look at a reallocation within these programs and hopefully an expansion of them as well.
Another idea would be, and granted, I would have to talk with folks like Naeem and, Pofin Salem, who's our budget expert in OMB, but we could have triggers that if MedPal does not spend down a significant portion by the second or third quarter, then it gets transferred over to the other program, so that we don't have as much line.
Yeah, I think in order to do that, we'll have to look at this for and that was one of the things that I was going to think about for the budget for next year, and why I thought the quarterly would be helpful. But we would have to allocate the first 500 to the program, and then another 500 to homeownership programs in general, and probably direct the department if it's underutilized to a certain level, they're eligible for that funding, and if not, then it could be utilized for another homeownership program or something along those lines. But
we don't like seeing money unspent.
Yeah.
We want to serve.
So, all right, well, that gives us some things to think about, and hopefully this will prompt some conversations before the budget comes, so we don't run into some of the dynamics we have in the past. I know there's a shared commitment to avoid. Just a note, I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but you might want to, on the LEDC presentation, there was one of the demographic charts that I think the numbers were off. There was no reference to the ONP AAPI demographic, and so I think the white numbers were elevated, and there was no Asian AAPI ONP one. So we don't need to pull it up, we don't need to make a big deal out of it, but just for future, if we're reposting this, if that could be looked at and maybe fixed, just, to make sure that it's accurate, I think that would be helpful. Yeah, here it is, county demographics. It has 58.3% white.
So we can, Walter, can you all get us within the next couple of days an updated version? And so we can send an updated version.
Yeah, that just, if this is being posted, I think it'd be helpful just to have that be corrected. I think, yeah, that'd be great. So just don't want to be overly sensitive, but I also think, we need to be representative of our whole community. I know it was an honest mistake, but I just wanted to note that. Let me turn it to Councilor Toronto.
Yep, I just wanted, before we wrap, and hope you don't get mad at me, I just wanted to thank Summer Cross, who I believe this will be your last meeting before us. She's leaving to take a great opportunity, and you've done a great job, and I'm sad about it, but I just wanted to publicly say thank you for your work, and congratulations, and good luck with where you're going.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ditto to that. We are very sorry to see you go. You've been a tremendous asset to the county, to DHCA, and to us on this committee in particular, and really appreciate your partnership and collaboration. Hasn't always been easy. We've had to grapple through some tough issues, but you have handled it with grace and with professionalism and with a real commitment to the work that you do, and we all very much appreciate it and appreciate you and wish you well.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, thank you to all of our partners. This is a team effort. Certainly we don't do this program alone. DHCA doesn't even run the programs. It just helps the partners run the programs and do the work and do the outreach in the community. I think it's reflective of a lot of the most important work that we do. We talk about the moral test of government, looking after the folks at the dawn of life, the twilight of life, and in the shadows of life. We can't meet that moral test of government with government alone. And so the community partners, as was evidenced here, are critical to that. HOC as an agency partner, and HIP and LEDC as key partners in this work. So thank you for that, and with that, we are adjourned. All right, thanks, Naeem.
Information to aid you in your daily commute. You are listening to the Montgomery County Transportation Management Center's Travelers Advisory Radio System, WP